Yes, a very good morning from my side too. My name is Derek Marseille. I'm with Totem.co. We do community management software, work a lot with creative independence and did also lots of interviews with startups. As said, we'll lead you through the morning program, but before I will do this, I have to remind you that we also have a networking app. I don't know if you already downloaded it, but I was told it's a very good app. You can go to the App Store, also on Android, and if you type in Startup Camp Berlin, you can download it and then find all the other people here through a profile and connect to them. So at the end of the morning, we will hear from Merck what it means to them to work together with startups, to collaborate with them. Before that, we will have a fireside chat between an investor and a startup. How does that exactly work? And before that, in 15 minutes, we will have a panel discussion on mobility. And of course, mobility is a very broad topic, but we have very interesting guests that will tie this together. But at first, we're going to start with our keynote speaker of the day. He actually comes from Nuremberg. 1/3 of his time he spends in Munich, and 2/3 of his time in Berlin. So this must mean that he spends lots of times on the bus. Give it up for Daniel Krauss of Flixbus, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning. So, thanks for having me. And it's still early, and actually the weather really depressed me when I today not hopped out of a bus but on a plane because this event is so early. Anyhow, who of you guys and girls knows Flixbus or even traveled with us already? That's what I want to hear, but still potential for like a little room for some more customers. I will now shortly tell you a little bit about the story of Flixbus and what we are aiming for and where we came from. I personally am Daniel, one of the founders, and at Flixbus responsible for the technology, which is actually one of the reasons why I spent most of the time in Berlin, because yes, our technology department is here, and also I guess it's way below 50% of German colleagues we have in the technology department, because we love Berlin as such an international city. Well, this is how it still looks in our cities, but not also in our cities, and not only in our cities, but also on the roads between our cities. It's full of cars. And not only that they produce much carbon dioxide, most of them are not used for many of the time. They just stand around and congest our streets. And we, together with all the other startups in the mobility sector focusing on local and short distance, we just want to make our country, our cities, and also Europe's cities green again. And fun fact, we are even green. The reason why that is currently working out quite well is that younger people do not really aim for having a car anymore. I mean, we're now Generation Y, X, Z, and a couple funny terms, but the generation before had been called Generation Golf, and yeah, they all had to have cars. Now it's much more important to have cool smartphones, like down here, or iPads, or some other cool mobile devices, and still we want to travel, and we want to travel even more than our parents. And God bless the European Union, it became much easier. And still, it remained a little expensive for a while. And there were only options like the former governmental-owned railways, large airplane and aviation companies, our own cars again, and here and there some carpooling options. Well, and the reason why there were less long-distance mobility startups is basically that long distance is very CapEx oriented, so you really have to invest heavily before starting something up. It's also quite complex to have a certain demand prediction, because depending on the seasonality, whether it's summer or winter, certain events here, vacation and holidays there, not that easy to provide proper schedules. And last but not least, what helped us is the price transparency, because ultimately also our parents or grandparents, they had to hit the vending machine in the train stations or probably the clerks and just they got the most expensive and complex tickets ever, had to have many interconnections, and it was not very convenient. And there was no other choice because they could not even have compared stuff. With the 21st century arising and the internet, well, it's so easy to compare stuff on your apps, on the website. There's so much cool meta searchers and comparison sites out there, which just figure out that you can decide whether you have much time or you have less money or whatever is the current need and your personal demand, you choose the mobility provider which fits best. And therefore, we had the chance to disrupt especially the long-distance part of the mobility market, because in the short distance area, we saw that already for a while. My Taxi or Uber, door-to-door, there are many cool startups out there already. In the long distance, it hadn't been like that. Before, we had the opportunity, due to the legal regulation of the German government back 2013, to start up again the bus services in our country and provide something in between, cars and individual traffic and carpooling and the trains. How we did that, basically buses had been around forever. Everybody knows buses, but they weren't sexy. Either you guys had been beaten up on the way to school, or potentially someone got a heating blanket accidentally, even though you didn't want to. So what we did is, beside bringing many partners together and enhanced that with technology, I come to that later, is we just tried to bring some Flixperience, some new sexiness to that product, with more or less easy things in the beginning, which meant power plugs in the buses, a well-trained driver who supports you with having your luggage onboarded, offboarded, Wi-Fi and internet, bless you, of course, and all the cool things, which is more or less commodity right now. You wouldn't go to somewhere without internet, because basically what was not in the past like this, if I hit the bus or the train or the plane, I want to go from A to B. Meanwhile, I want to use my time. It's not for the purpose or the sake of traveling, usually. Some of us do as well. On top of that, we just build a brand. And most important, we only could have achieved because we just took technology, 21st century stuff, and thought about what are our customers and how would they buy tickets. So through which channels, like online, webs, apps, can I go to you at best? In addition, having long-term mobility is a little complex. You have proper schedules, you have to deal with stops, there is yield management to always have the best price around. And where others did that or still do that manually, we just thought, why not use data and come up with some technology so it can be done better and more automated. And with that, we currently serve buses and many other things, but we figured over time, well, will it be forever buses? I don't know. Potentially there are also other vehicles like trains or cars or anything, which in a long distance focus can be painted green. Our model itself is vertically integrated. Flixbus does only the planning and the creation of the schedules and the timetables. We do all the pricing, the marketing, we manage our partners, we deal with the governments and all the legal challenges. We do basically everything but driving the buses. Driving the buses is done of our 250 approximately bus partners Europe-wide, which are usually mid-sized companies who share together with us the invest and also have the 5,000 drivers with them who just control and steer our buses. The reason we choose this is the network effect just released the burden of those heavy invests. We just could have shared that among us. And as soon as you have a sustainable network, it's not that easy to destroy again because, well, we're 250 and not only one company who has to tackle everything. And with that strategy, we also managed to not being afraid of corporates or large players. When we started, obviously, there were a couple of startups, but not only startups, also corporates like Deutsche Bahn, Deutsche Post, a couple of international ones like National Express, the largest bus company in the world, or Megabus with Stagecoach, trying out the German market. But either they didn't have the proper strategy to address young people with what they need, a digital strategy, or they didn't have a partnership. They just really put the money instead of marketing and technology into their buses and owned them themselves. And we're therefore much slower than we were, and we could manage over the last years to just overtake or buy them, basically. And that came to the point that in Germany, by far, we are the leading bus transportation company with approximately 90% market share, and can now offer a good alternative to the railway or the planes. But also beyond Germany and France and Italy, we just managed to get over 50% market share, and that's only the core of Europe, and we're not done yet. I mean, meanwhile, we're also running down to Bulgaria, and I guess there will be another different and more companies coming, especially in the southeast of Europe, because we think everybody deserves a good and cheap and very ecological alternative to ride. Speed, I mentioned already, is the key. And with the support of our people here in Berlin, in Zagreb, in Munich, we just managed to grow the company over 100% on average. That is the only reason why we had the chance to overcome those incumbents, because us as startups, that's one of the benefits we have. We just decide faster, we are faster, and speed is what matters, especially in the beginning. Those are now the key figures how Flixbus looks in April 2017. It's 120,000 daily connections, and we serve over 100,000 destinations in 21 countries. And therefore, we managed to transport overall 70 million people. In the last year, 30 million of them have been transported, which is actually more than the domestic flight market here in Germany, and which makes us the third largest German people's transporting company with Deutsche Bahn and Lufthansa. And we manage that currently out of 6 offices. Beside the ones I mentioned, there is also an office in Milan and in Paris. Together, we're a little bit over 1,000 employees only here in the headquarters, which is a little bit above 450 tech, and the rest is divided by marketing, business development, service. We have 300 people in customer service in Bulgaria, in Berlin, and in Tiflis, Georgia, to just really serve the needs, because that is also, beside the technology and the speed, something it always seems larger companies don't really focus on, to understand what the customers want and need and to support them properly. Overall, the vision and the goal we're aiming for is to make the world green, and not necessarily only by running overall Flixbuses, but just support on an ecological perspective to reduce cars and carbon dioxide. And how we do that is we currently still focus on the bus market, but as I said, if there are some other cool providers who would like to partner up out there, we don't care whether it's vans or trains or whatever. What we don't do is taking over Air Berlin, because they have just too much depth. Therefore, I wish you a very, very cool Startup Camp 2017. Pleasure for listening, and thanks for having me.